Okay.
Yeah, Mirae, welcome to the Mindful Steward Podcast. Thanks for hopping on here to have a chat with me.
No problem.
I don't really have a specific direction I want to take this in. I have some ideas that I wrote down just from stuff that I saw on your social profiles and things that I know just from our like brief conversations in the summer. But
Not me grabbing your quads.
no, not not that. That was pretty hilarious though. But overall, I think it seems like you do a lot of interesting things. Like you're borderline an influencer. I don't know if you would consider yourself that. You have a pretty good following, at least.
Yeah, that's probably an umbrella term. It can fit in my umbrella term.
Yeah, I know, right? Because I was gonna ask you about that too. But as a photographer, I know a lot of people in the creative space. Their social profiles really showcase their work. So it's maybe not the word influencer is not the right one, but you have a pretty good presence there. And, I was just looking on your site right before here just to refresh myself on some of the brands you have worked with.
Don't look at that. It hasn't been touched in like 15 years.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it at least gives some perspective,
Yeah.
Like you obviously worked with Red Bull, Burton, Keen, Blundstone, Sanuk, Thermarest, and probably a ton more since then, if it hasn't been updated since then. I know I've seen some stuff, since I added you on or started following your Instagram page from a lot of other brands too. So you're a photographer by trade, or am I missing anything there?
No,
you doing other stuff too?
You got it. I influence for sure. I'm not going to say that I'm not an influencer. I'm not going to be above that life. I definitely get paid to promote products on my page. So yeah, I influence, but I probably make the brunt of my income on commercial photography.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
And so, part of these conversations that I record with people, again, the Mindful Steward is a site with a lot of meditation and mindfulness resources. And the one thing we sell on that site now, as of the recording here before everything comes out, is we sell corporate meditation retreats. And so I have some friends who help us execute on those. But
cool.
So photography isn't necessarily the most tied into meditation, but one thing that always fascinates me, especially as somebody else who's working on my own business, is the story of how you ended up working for yourself in this position is always super interesting for me. So I'm kind of curious to chat about that, but I also wanted to kind of dive in on how you perceive things. I mean, maybe that's a weird way to describe it, but
yeah, perceive what? It really depends on the day.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I think, one thing that helped me actually end up quitting my job and doing my own thing is that I eventually realized that everyone I knew who was doing the things they wanted to do, they all look at the world a little differently. And I started to kind of intentionally try and think more like that so that I could eventually. And I think that's a big thing is people like you, especially creatives, often see the world in a little bit of a different way and like what you want your week to look like, what you want your month to look like. Even, you're just saying that one of your goals is to be able to spend more time in Japan and when you have kids to be able to send them there and things like that. So I'd love to, I don't know really how you would describe it, but I'd love to kind of hear how you got into where you are now. Like it sounds like, how did you get into photography?
It's a bit of a long story, but I guess we got time. When I was a kid, specifically when I was a teenager, sorry, the drama of this guy. My parents had recently bought a house in Maple Ridge, which is, I don't know if you know much about the Fraser Valley, but we were the meth capital in 2010 of the world, actually. Yikes. But I think my parents were trying to find a way to keep my brother and I engaged in things that were not mischievous behavior. So they enrolled us in a community volunteer program. And up until then, this happened when I was 12, but up until then I was pretty introverted. My brother was definitely the child prodigy. He was super charismatic, really brilliant. He still is, all of those things. But I think it took me a little bit longer to arrive. And so, yeah, when I was 12, they put us in like a volunteer thing where we had to basically do dirty work for all the camp counselors at summer camp. And it turned out great. So I ended up doing that for 10 years. As a result of that, I ended up becoming a camp counselor myself. And then from there became a youth worker to work with, I wouldn't call them endangered, but Maple Ridge definitely has a below poverty line for at-risk youth. So in the summers, we would take them on camping trips and take them for nature excursions. It sort of became the way that I connected with people because I'm pretty awkward, I think. Sometimes, I mean, like, I'm pretty introverted too, which is hard for a lot of people to believe, but I like to spend a lot of time alone. If I have to be in a public space and turn it on, then I will, but I do a lot better with one-on-one intimate connections. So with youth, I sort of found my way with people. That was sort of what brought me the most purpose. So I got my degree in English literature, thinking that I wanted to be an English teacher. I also went on a trip to Rwanda when I was 18. I just graduated high school, and I went on this trip for a month to build a community center. And I decided that I wanted to move to Africa and teach English, which is so ridiculous. But so I went to school with this like high achieving dream to go do that. And then I switched my major to get my degree in linguistics. And it turns out I hate linguistics because it's basically mathematics, and I'm an art head and not a math head. So simultaneously, I was taking a lot of photos for the youth center because it was a great way for me to be involved in community events. We have an indoor skate ramp. I was shooting skateboarding. There were lots of women that were in higher positions at the youth center who really elevated me to take photos. And through that, I sort of found a way to find this like one thing that belonged to me. I think growing up, it was really hard to find my footing because my brother was quite an impressive individual. I mean, again, he still is. So, and my grandpa, who was a Japanese doctor, a gynecologist, very successful one, his outlet was photography. So when we were kids and we would spend the summer there, he would always get up really early and go for walks by the river and take photos of all the cranes and the egrets by the river. So it sort of became this thing where like I would get up early and then I would go with him and we would go for river walks. And so my entry into photography was probably through my grandpa, but then later on in life, when I was sort of trying to self-actualize, it became sort of like a safety blanket to be involved in events that I didn't feel like I was welcome to, but I had this access to a tool that basically provided something valuable to other people around me. And then, yeah, from there, I just took photos for free forever until people let me hang and they started paying me. So, yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And what kind of, you said events that you didn't really feel like you should be at, so you kind of got access to it through photography. Like what kind of events?
Mostly skateboarding. When I lived in Maple Ridge, I would say my parents were super poor growing up, so they couldn't afford to put us in any extracurricular sports. They took us hiking, and we had lots of pets growing up, but we never could afford to go snowboarding or we couldn't even like join soccer clubs because we just didn't have any money to do that. So I think my like understanding of extreme sports was super limited, and it was a world that I wasn't involved in. And, even moving to Whistler, it's like all these people that snowboard have grown up snowboarding. They've had the chance to be able to have access to this their whole life. Whereas, I don't know, I outgrew Maple Ridge and then I decided to move to Whistler because I wanted to learn how to snowboard, but I didn't do that until I was 21 or 22, 23. I moved to Whistler when I was 23, which was 9 years ago. So I didn't start learning how to snowboard until I was 23. Simultaneous to that, I was also trying to learn how to shoot snowboard photography. So I kind of just jumped into the deep end with a camera and a snowboard all at the same time. And lucky for me, I had some really good mentors and people who were patient with me to hang out with me while I did both. So I think there's a world of people who are professional athletes who do really well in things like skateboarding, mountain biking, snowboarding, skiing. And I don't think that I would be welcome in those spaces unless I had something to offer, which in my case, it's photography.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
That's so funny that you started doing both of those in tandem, because I have some really good buddies who are working cinematography and photography and things like that. And it's through board sports. Like, we all grew up just obsessed with board sports. And one of the phenomenons I've noticed, actually, it's not my thought, it's one of them actually told me this, but people, like, in board sports, people have been capturing moments forever. Like, they were just the first people messing around with cameras. And then suddenly social media exploded and everything exploded. And they just happened to be the people who already knew how to use those tools.
Yeah.
So I've noticed there's a huge trend. I used to go to these events in Toronto when I lived there from Canon, the creator class. I don't know if you would have heard of those.
Yeah. I actually did a, wasn't a master class, but I did like a course with them for one of their things.
Oh,
a few years ago.
Sweet. Yeah. In Toronto or here?
No, I did it online. Okay. I'm pretty sure the head office that hired me to do it was from Alberta, but it was pretty dope. Like, it's just a bunch of people like tuned into my Zoom, and I had like a bunch of questions that I answered and had a PowerPoint. And actually one of my like the highest paying client that I ever got probably 4 years ago, where it was like the kind of money that they were paying me where I was like, what the fuck do I do with all this? Like, it was so terrifying. And it was like coming into my personal account. They like put a deposit in my personal account, and I was like, fuck, like, what do I do with all this money? I was so stressed out. And that client came from coming to like my creator class online with Canon.
No way. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I used to love those events. Like,
yeah, they're cool. I feel like they stopped doing them.
Yeah, they stopped doing them in Toronto, like right before the pandemic, and then, I think a lot of companies just stopped doing things. After that. But yeah, they're, we were talking about how I work in marketing. Like, I work in there's a lot of creativity, but it's not like the same as photography or art of some kind. Yeah. But that kind of stuff is what inspires me. Like, I'm not reading business books to get psyched up. I'm like watching videos. Or like talking to people, watching videos about music video directors like Cole Bennett or people like that. So those kind of things I loved those. And I noticed that like tons of them they're like skaters. They're all like Beyonce's main photographer. I forget that guy's name. Beyonce, Jay-Z, that guy's he's a skater. Yeah. It's so ingrained in that culture. Yeah.
It's kind of cool because maybe in a way, like, we're all kind of similar that way, where it's like, well, didn't have enough to make it pro. Maybe that's not what I'm saying. Like, I will never be a professional athlete in that regard, but like, I can hang, I can keep up. So that's kind of cool. And you learn a lot being on that side of the lens, even with surfing. When I didn't know how to surf, it was way easier for me to swim instead of surfing. So I would just go out with my camera instead of a surfboard. So I could take a surf photo way better than I can surf. So that's kind of just like sports for me anyways.
Nice. Yeah, fair enough. So what, when you say you did a whole bunch of free work, what is that like? Were you just shooting photos on the side? Like, not really as a job or anything? Or you just mean you were giving people massive discounts to try and get your name out there? Like, what exactly, how did that look?
I don't think that photography is something intrinsically not intrinsically, like monetarily valuable for me. Of course, it's great to get paid. It's great that I do get paid to be able to live the life that I do. But I think when I started photography, even still, my mindset is pretty flexible. I'm doing it because it's how I get to hang out with people, and it's how I get to connect with people. It allows me access in a way that most people don't get access. And that's the reason I do it. So usually if I'm planning a shoot, it means that I get to hire a bunch of my friends who are really good who are also just trying to figure it out. And the client doesn't have to know that you're all just trying to figure it out. The client thinks that you have that shit dialed. So you just have to hire the right people who are going to present on a frontward level professionally. And you just have to be a good person to hang out with, because clients at the end of the day are also just people. And so they just want to hang out with someone who is fun to hang out with. So it doesn't always have to be fun, just someone who is a good person and they want to have a human connection with. So I think I went on a tangent. I'm sorry. What was the original question?
It was kind of a vague question. No, that was a great tangent. But I was just asking about like doing free work, because you mentioned that.
Oh, free work.
Kind of how you got the momentum.
Yeah. I still do free work. I get paid really well, but I also still do free work. I think I don't do photography to get paid. So I think when I started shooting photos, it's not like there was a guidebook, and Instagram was sort of just starting when I guess not really. When I got into photography, I had worked up a pretty decent following because I went on this Kontiki tour with a bunch of videographers and influencers, and they were like the first of their kind, like the ones that had amassed huge followings on Instagram and YouTube. So because I got to go on this like trip a decade ago, I learned a lot of really good things. And then as a result of that, when I came home from that trip, I didn't have a following, but I shot for a lot of magazine publications. And through that is how I gained my following, is working for a lot of print magazines who were starting to create blogs and write things in online spaces, even for brands. Like Thermarest was one of my first, clients that didn't pay me, but gave me product to go on these expeditions. And I would write about them and give them photo assets. And then we would create online blogs, which weren't really a thing back then because it was mostly print. And so that was sort of how I got my following. So when I started shooting photos part-time, I still had to have other jobs to supplement that income. I didn't really like go into photography thinking I was going to get paid. I was just doing it because I thought it was fun. So when I moved to Whistler, I just met all these people who were like also just trying to figure out digital marketing. And I kind of was like, I'll take photos of that. Sounds sweet. Never expecting to be paid, just like wanting to do it for the experience and for fun. And then those for free things ended up turning into return clients, which is honestly the majority of my clientele. Like them just like throwing me a bone and then them being like, oh, she's actually pretty dope. Let's actually pay her. So yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. So it was never like a plan. It kind of just turned into what it is, just through enjoying it and just doing stuff with cool people and cool projects, basically.
Yeah, I'm not much of a planner. I'm definitely a feeler from what I've been told through all of these people that I've had different sessions with. Okay. I'm not a goal setter. I'm like let's just see how it goes type person.
Okay, interesting. Because one thing that caught my attention when I was actually, like, this whole thing started because I asked Dom for some recommendations, and she was like, you should actually chat with Mirae. And then I asked you for more recommend. Yeah, I mean, Dom's great.
Yeah.
And then I got some recommendations from you too, and you mentioned that you've had a business coach in the past. So that was one thing.
Did you get in touch with her?
I haven't got in touch with her yet. She's on the list. I've chatted with Leslie. We're gonna set something up. But
she's in Vancouver. Yeah, cool.
We're gonna set something up. Hopefully do it in person at the studio.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, just the fact that you've had a business coach, I found kind of interesting, because I find a lot of I don't want to make it seem like business coaches is something you only get if you want to like be some ultra rich like tech billionaire founder. Like
or if you're like an executive at a corporation.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like I think sometimes it's perceived that way, but I've had a business coach throughout setting my company up, and it's been priceless. Just having someone else who like can share an outside perspective. Yeah. But sometimes I grapple a little bit with like obsessing over like a goal and a target just takes the fun out of things at the same time. So I don't really take it with that approach. I just take it as a second opinion. But I'm curious to hear how that fits in. Like just hearing you say you're not a planner, but you've also, done coaching with people and maybe you still do. Like how does that kind of
I don't coach with her anymore. She played like a pretty integral role when I was starting my photography business. I think as entrepreneurs, it's super easy, especially when you're young, to like work a bunch of different jobs so that you can like keep your dream alive. And in my case, I guess it was photography. Not that I was trying to keep this dream of photography alive. It was just like had my hands in a bunch of different pots because I was just trying to make an income that didn't require me to go to an office 9 to 5. And I filled those gaps in many different ways. And the reason, it's not like I seeked out a business coach. I think that it's like finding a business coach that fits for you is like finding a therapist that's the fit for you. And so often you can find one that, like, how are you supposed to know the difference? If you never had a business coach, if they're just feeding you with a bunch of bullshit that doesn't align with you, then how are you supposed to know that that isn't actually correct? You know, maybe they're right, but it doesn't work for you. I think that for me, it just serendipitously happened that I was working for a coaching business, doing their social media content. And as a result of working for that company, because they weren't paying us that much money, they supplemented that by partnering up us with all their staff with their fleet of coaches. And so Mirae, she was a business coach. She like her background and trade is working with presidents and CEOs of companies. But also there's like this crazy spiritual side to her where she also can connect with you on a superhuman and empathetic level. So I think when I met her, I was in a very turbulent phase of my life. And she kind of was just like, quit all your jobs. What's up with you like doing all these jobs that you hate? And I think when you're young, you're like, but I have to, like, how am I going to pay my $2,000 rent for this 1-bedroom apartment, you know? And then how am I going to save money to buy something on top of that? It's going to be impossible. And she was much of a feeler. She was actually the one who was like, you're a feeler. So just like quit them, quit all your jobs. And then like, once you put all your energy into photography, like it'll work out. Don't worry. And it did. It was totally fine.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I think like if you have anxiety about something, it probably will manifest in all different kinds of ways. But like my outlook is kind of like, I can't really stress about that, especially being a freelancer. It's like, this year was super slow for work for me. I mean, December was insane for some reason. It was like, everyone was like, oh, we have this leftover money. Let's just spend it all now. So December was crazy, but like up until December, I kind of was like chilling, which was unusual for me compared to the last 3 years. And so I think people's spending habits were just a little bit different this year, but I just had to be like, it's all good. It'll just figure itself out. And it totally did. But it's really hard to tell someone who is thinking about like quitting their day job in order to pursue photography. Because I don't want to be like, it's all going to work out. Just because it worked out for me doesn't mean that that person is cut out to just chill and not freak out when they don't have any work for a month.
Yeah. That's the like being a gig worker, freelancer in photography or videography. I guess that's probably the hardest part is the inconsistency. I'm just guessing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what, you know, I'm just thinking, I guess in the third person right now. I have a buddy of mine who's an amazing photographer, and he's trying to quit his job right now and just pursue it full time. So like when Mirae was suggesting to you to just drop everything else that's sucking your time away, I'm assuming what she's kind of saying is like, that's time that you're not putting towards your actual dream.
Yeah. And I think that message, like you've heard it 1,000 times before. So have I. It seems to be this like common narrative, but again, it's so much easier said than done. You know, your friend that wants to quit his job, maybe it's not that easy for him. Again, rent is super expensive. So is the cost of living, especially where we live. So it's not always feasible, especially when we've had parents who are boomers who kind of have this formula of you have to go get a post-secondary education and then get a job for a really good company where you're going to get a pension. You're going to have, you know, you're going to be covered. You have medical and you're going to get vacation days. Those are all the things that you should look for in a conventional way of living, which is how we were raised, but that's not how most of us live now. So I think she kind of literally but said that. She was like, if you want to do photography full time, why are you putting your energy into things? You know, you work a full day doing 3 different jobs for 3 clients, and then you come home and sure, you want to shoot photos, but how do you have the energy to set yourself up to shoot photos if you're just like burnt out because your brain has been freaking out all day and your nervous system's crashing? So it sounds like a cliche, and it sounds really simple just to be like, but you have to put more energy into what you want. Energy doesn't pay the bills sometimes, but in the long term, it kind of does. I don't know.
No, I like that. It's a long-term thing. It really is a long-term thing. It's like you're not banking on what will happen in the next 3 weeks. You're banking on what that all compounds to in 3 years or like 2 years. Yeah. It can compound to a pretty good lifestyle, or at least what the lifestyle you want.
But again, like the last 2 years, you know, 2022 and 2023 were incredible years for my business. It did so well. It was like insane how well my photography business did. And then 2024 came along and I was like, cool, we're going to have another one, but better. And it wasn't bad, but it wasn't better. It was just like pretty neutral. It wasn't as crazy as I had anticipated it to be. So and like, I wish I could say that anxiety and like the roller coaster is, you know, gets better, but it doesn't. It's like super inconsistent. You know, I had 2 great years and then 1 year I kind of was like, wasn't really how I thought it was going to go, but that's okay.
Do you think, I mean, I talk about this stuff with business owners or freelancers all the time, just because that's, I guess, who I'm surrounded with a lot these days. But do you think you're less anxious in your work than you were years ago? Or do you think it's still there? You're just battling with it and you're just getting better at dealing with it. Like, what would you say?
I think I'm pretty confident in my skill level, which is probably something new for me that's come in the last 3 years. But I still get super anxious, but it comes up when I least expect it. Like, generally, I'm super supportive of my friends. I'm all about hiring people wherever I can, making sure that if I eat, everyone eats. But finding myself being jealous or feeling like my work sucks or feeling like I'm unwanted when my peers are getting hired and I'm not. And they're not gatekeeping, but they're like holding their cards close to their chest because I'm the opposite. So I think that a projection comes out a little bit when those things happen. I have to check myself to be like, it's all good. There's work for everyone, you know, it's not super stressful. But I found that came up a lot this year because I wasn't as crazy busy as I thought I was going to be. So when my peers were getting work and I wasn't, that like anxiety definitely manifested in some pretty uncharacteristic ways because I felt like I wasn't good enough. There also was a scenario this winter where I went to shoot a snowboard event. It was an all women snowboarding event, but the media team was all men except for one female filmer and one female photographer. That female photographer was me, and there was one female filmer from the States. But other than that, the other 10 people in the room were men who have been in the industry for 20 to 30 years. And that was like a whole new level of anxiety where I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? And what the fuck are these guys doing here? Like, they should have girls in this room, but then like, also, why am I here? Like, I kind of just felt like they were taking pity on me, you know, like they were like, oh, we have to like check a box and like have a girl in the room, but they weren't super nice to me. It was like super stressful because they sort of were like elbowing me out of the way to make sure that I didn't get in their way. And so that was a whole nother layer of anxiety that I hadn't really experienced in this field, because usually when I'm working on a commercial photo set, I'm hiring my own team. And it's usually a pretty diverse team with lots of women. So I haven't yet bursted into the male dominated snowboard media group. And that was a completely different level of anxiety that I hadn't experienced before until this winter. So
that is so interesting.
Yeah. I think in terms of like how I feel about my work, it's pretty good, but sometimes it wanes depending on what's going on for me at the time.
Okay. I get that. You know, I can relate to that a lot, even though that situation is completely different. I mean, and I've only had my business for 4 years. So I feel like how long have you been doing like
getting
photography
paid
full time?
Paid properly, probably 5 years.
Okay.
Unpaid, probably 10.
Okay. Fair. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So it's not really that different. It's like I can relate to that in the sense that I feel super confident in me and my team's work, but there's still so many situations where people are talking over my head, and I hear that and I'm like, oh shit, like what is going on?
Something is happening. Yeah.
But the thing I've come to, I mean, it's not really the same as you in the sense that you can still do those shoots. That when people are talking over my head, it's because they're working with giant enterprise clients that I don't even want as customers. So it's a little bit different in that. But for me, someone said it to me. I don't even know. It might've been a podcast or something that I listened to recently. And it was basically saying, every time you're feeling anxious about your work or stressed, just remind yourself or ask yourself, is stress, stress is like an option in that moment. I can't even remember. I'm butchering this, but it's like, is the stress helpful?
Yeah. And
or can you just chip away without it?
My boyfriend says it to me all the time. He's like, are you stressed about something you can control? No, then why are you stressed about it? It's like, because I'm a woman and that's all we do is overthink. So no, I think fundamentally similar to like put your energy where you want it to go. It's easier said than done. Like, it's just my own imposter syndrome getting in the way of my greater potential. And it's like super normal because there's such a high concentration of us that live in the sea to sky, especially doing what we do, where everyone's sort of competing for the same things, that inevitably those things happen. But I'm learning to let them go with a bit of grace and compassion for myself, because it's really hard not to like think that it's me that's the problem rather than it's just like not my turn, or, the idea is meant to be taken with someone else. So, yeah.
I also think there's something to be said about like maybe jealousy, like you're saying, when there's a lot of jobs going around, but you're not getting any of them. Well, you're obviously getting some, but you're not getting what you're hoping for. Jealousy can kind of pop up, and there's something to be said about, I personally think that if you're, again, the longer term perspective, the gatekeeping mentality is like, I don't know, let's say you're a software guy or girl, like somebody who owns a software company and you're developing this novel thing that you invented. That's sure, just keep your secrets. It is your secret. Your whole business is founded on that. But in industries where it's not really, like, I just think the people who collaborate or get farther ahead. I think ultimately, like you're saying, people like working with people they like and enjoy and they've heard good things about, and it does come around full circle. Even if the person you help ends up getting a couple gigs that you might have got, I think in the big vision of like 2-3 years out, I think everyone ends up in a better position than people who are just openly helping everyone.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I remind myself of that on the days that I feel less than. So we're getting better at it. We're healing.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, but also this is a side note, but have you read the book Tomorrow? You should read it.
No, I haven't even heard of it. I haven't even heard of it.
It's kind of popular right now. It's about these two kids in university that made a video game that basically became a smash hit overnight. Pretty good book. Something really sad happens in the middle of the book, and I put the book down because I was like, cool, this book is over for me. They just did something really upsetting to a main character that I was obsessed with, and now I refuse to finish the book. So I haven't actually finished it, but the first half of the book was really good. Okay. And I think you would like it.
Is it a fiction book? It's a story?
Yeah, it's a fiction book. It's a fiction book, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. But there is a part where like the girl who was one half of the team making the video game gets a resource from her professor who created an essential part of programming that made the game way easier to make. And he basically was like, we should all share. Nice. Which that reminded me of that. So anyways.
Yeah, I'll write it down.
I digress. Yeah.
So what would instead of generalizing it to anyone, but let's say my buddy who's trying to fully dive into photography, like what would you suggest to someone like that? If you had to say like some steps that helps people that you have found works for you. I think it's different for everyone, but yeah, I'm curious to hear that.
I think that's like a super common question that most people ask me, and I don't know that I have the same answer every time. Again, I'm a feeler, so I don't have a linear way of how I ended up here. I think for him or anyone, I guess, it's important to define your purpose for what you're trying to achieve. If you want to get into commercial photography, then start finding people who inspire you in the commercial photography space and ask them to carry bags or set up light stands or literally just show up and bring people coffee. If you want to take photos of wildlife, then sign up for wildlife courses and birding courses, anything that's basically expanding your knowledge. You kind of have to spend money, I would say, to sort of expand. I think a lot of people who want to get into photography think that it can turn into this quick return on investment. It's kind of like people who go to therapy when they're at rock bottom. They're looking for like a quick fix to this overwhelming sense of dread that they have. And it's kind of like that with being a freelance photographer full time. Your return is not going to come right away. So maybe for your friend or even someone in his position who is working a job, maybe it isn't the best case scenario to quit your job and put all your energy into photography, because like I said, not everyone is cut out to live a freelance life. To not know when your next check is coming is really crippling. And that crippling anxiety can stop you from sending emails, and it can paralyze you from going out and meeting people. And so maybe having security where you have stable income is what you need in order to chip away at something slowly. And it's not like I just quit everything all at once. I had many jobs for 3 or 4 years until I decided that I was okay enough just to quit everything. It doesn't have to be that dramatic, though. I think that defining what you want out of it, if you want to make a lot of money, then you have to find the photographers that are doing just that and making a lot of money. If you want to be on really cool photography sets and you want to be the creative master behind creating compelling imagery, then find people that do that and put yourself in proximity to those people. And the internet is a great tool. It's really anxiety inducing. It's bad for our nervous system sometimes, but setting boundaries around that and finding people that you really look up to and reaching out to them just to be like, hey, can I carry your backpack? Or like, make sure you're drinking water on a shoot one day. I have tons of people that do that to me all the time. And every so often I pick them up and I'm like, yeah, sure, come. Not everyone is like me though. Like, it's pretty common that you might just not get a response, but it's totally doable. It's just having realistic expectations on your return on investment. So if you're wanting to make money right away, that might hinder your ability to expand your career. I think my purpose has always been to connect with people and hang out with them and have cool experiences. And because that's always been my priority, I ended up also just getting paid, which was awesome. And I'm also able to be generous with my time and my energy because I'm not trying to get a paycheck. And unfortunately, when you approach a client or you approach someone that you want to take photos for, like I said, they're just people. So if you come from a place of need, then they can sniff that out of you. And desperation is not always like, people can sense that energy, and that's not what makes people want to work with you. They want to work with you because it's like an energy exchange that is balanced, rather than you coming to them being like, I'm going to provide this service for you, but you have to pay me what my fair rate is. Yeah.
Yeah.
A tangent.
No, no, that was great. I could unpack that in so many directions, but it reminds me of a bunch of things. Like my business coach, for one, is it's a similar thing where I have like a habit of underpricing.
Of course.
And he's just there to remind me, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And by underpricing, I'm kind of like, you kind of showcase a little bit too much desperation, because why would you be underpricing if you deliver good work and you know that? So that's kind of my own version of dealing with something like that. But yeah, I couldn't agree.
And I think, but it's also really common for people to underprice, but also there's no playbook for that. I think a lot of people gatekeep their prices. They don't talk about that. That's like not something that people are super open about. So that's like a whole nother thing.
Interesting. In your space specifically?
In my space specifically, the first year that I ever, that I moved to Whistler and I was getting into photography, I met up with this guy that you probably know, but we went for coffee and I had gotten asked to do this job and I was like, hey, so excited, you know, I was like, I got asked to do this job. Like, what do you think I should charge for something like this? And he was like, oh, we don't talk about that. Like, we don't talk about money. And I was like, okay, like that's crazy. And as a result of that, now I talk about money with everyone. And that's like what I tell people when they're like, what should I do for this? I openly tell them what I would charge all the time. And I like will ballpark people's rates based on their experience, especially women in my field. There's not many of us. So, you know, if I want to hire a girl and she comes to me with a rate, I'm like, yo, just so you know, men in your field with the same amount of experience are charging like triple what you're charging. So you need to raise your price.
Nice. Good.
So yeah, I think undercharging is like, I don't know. It's hard because sometimes you get a client who like doesn't even bat an eye and is like, yeah, that sounds good. And sometimes you get one who's like, I don't know, that's like a lot of money, you know? So case by case, I guess.
Yeah. And I mean, it's always different. You're right. It's always different. But I think there is something to be said about, there's no roadmap for it, like you said, but when you're just starting out, even, not that I like to take this angle of conversation that much, but like, even if you are trying to like be ultra successful and money is your measuring stick, it's like, even if you want that, you're still starting out. Momentum is way more important than anything else. Mm-hmm. Like momentum is what gets you to whatever that direction you're heading in is. So you need momentum. Yeah. Like it's way more important than getting fixated on big prices on your second job or something like that. Like it takes so long of slowly building up the credibility of your prices, even if you're amazing right at the start.
Honestly, and my business coach was like, one day she was like, what's a amount of money that you want to get paid to shoot photos for this client? What would be like the best price ever? At the time, whatever, I don't know, like 7 years ago, I was like, 1,000 books would be awesome. And she was like, okay, then like charge that for everything. No matter what across the board, that's what you charge now. And I was like, that's way too much money. And she just scoffed at me. She was like, no, it's not. Like, just do it. And then every client I went to was like, no problem. And I was like, oh, fuck, I'm not charging enough money. So I think that like, and my ex-boyfriend, who actually taught me a lot about photography, he's like a top tier commercial photographer now. He only shoots like auto commercials and like diamond companies. Like he's insane. And he never hesitated once. He was like, I don't ever want to like do like small business stuff. Yuck, you know, like I'm only going to go for the big dogs. And like, he only shoots for like BMW and like Maserati now. And he like, without fail, that was always his plan from the very beginning. His plan was like, I'm going to make a shit ton of money and I'm only going to say yes to the jobs that I really want. And anytime that he wasn't working for the clients, which like he didn't just become that overnight, he would do spec shoots for free and he would rent cars and add to his portfolio in order to be able to go to clients to be like, I can do this, look. And so he just didn't budge on it and he makes tons of money. It's like probably insane how much money he makes. And so that's like a huge success story. You know, it was like something that he was non-negotiable on and he's doing great. But he also has like a pretty good financial cushion from his parents. So we don't always have that. So the alternative to that is that you have to work a full-time job and also integrate your side hustle into that, which I'm sure everyone is pretty familiar with. So,
The one thing that I think applies from his situation to everyone's situation is like he set his guidelines. He was like, this is what I want. And if it's not in that, it's not worth the energy and the time.
Yeah.
Because I'm better off investing all that energy and time towards just the building blocks of getting more of what I want, as opposed to, because that time's just gone once you commit to something.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way, it's similar to you know, when I talk to people who are interested in entrepreneurship, I don't even know what to tell people. It's like, yeah, how did I get here? I had friends who were entrepreneurs who inspired me. And then I started reading a couple books about it. And then I've just been curious about it for like a decade. So how do you even turn that into a path? It's impossible.
I don't know. Yeah. And telling someone to quit their job is like, okay, so then the person quits their job and then they come to you and they're like, now what? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Take some courses. Let's hang out. I don't know. And so it's totally possible. You just have to like put your head down and put your energy where you want. And in, you know, my ex's perspective, like he literally did that and it worked out really well for him. Whereas, you know, and his was like a black and white linear line where he was like, I will not digress from this path that I have set forth for myself. Whereas, you know, someone like me is like, no, I'll go over here and maybe I'll try it over there and I'll come back to square one. And then, you know, it's different for everyone. So yeah.
So, you know, you said something a little bit ago that I wasn't even going to bring up, but I was curious about, because I've asked this to a few other people I've chatted with who have enough, you know, of a following online that they should be investing a decent amount of time there. Similar to you, they get a lot of work through it and things like that. Good things do come from social media for them. So they invest a lot of time there. I, for example, am basically the opposite. I get no business from social media. Well, my LinkedIn profile gets me inquiries, but I don't even consider that social media. It's really not the same. It's not like
Facebook for corporate adults.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not really the same, but I don't spend time on social media. I basically deactivate my profile for like 9 months at a time and just ignore it. I have a burner account where I go and watch funny videos because I need to be able to watch hilarious videos. But it's not really a burner account. It's like one of my business profile accounts that I have no like real friends on.
Okay.
But basically, so how do you mentioned that social media, for better or worse, can be good and can be bad at times. You said something like that in one of your tangents. So yeah, as someone who, I mean, it's not me saying it, but I'm assuming that your outlook is that it's worthwhile to be active on there because you do have enough happening there. And like you said, you might get paid for some promotions from time to time. Do you, I mean, what is your experience? I mean, what is your experience with being active on there? Do you enjoy it? Do you find it's good for you? Do you find it stressful at times?
I think it's the thing that gives me the most anxiety.
Okay.
I think that if I don't set strict boundaries with it, and if I'm like especially anxious, depending on what time of the month it is, if I'm stressed out and burnt out, I access the app, it's really bad for me. I know that at certain periods I have to put my phone away, and if I'm having a super anxious day or I'm like super burnt out or I'm grieving something, I don't access the app. I don't have any parameters to why I don't access it. I just know that there are certain times that I can't consume other people's content or look at stories, because then that's like the narrative. My favorite flavor of anxiety is everyone hates me and I'm not good enough. So I'm working on it with my therapist, but however, it is just the way that my anxiety works. And so if I go on the app and I'm feeling low, then I know that it's just going to like feed into this unhealthy narrative that I have about how much fun everyone is having and I'm not doing enough, which I think is super common for people who own their own business, to think that they suck and they should be doing more. I think it's really normal and super healthy to feel that way. But I think from a business perspective, like I said, I haven't updated my website in 10 plus years. It's just been sitting stagnant since it got made. I haven't updated it because finding time to post on Instagram feels like the same as updating a website. And if I'm looking to hire people, whether it be a producer, or a photographer, a videographer, I find them on Instagram. If I'm looking for talent to hire, I find them on Instagram. And that's literally where I go to look for people to connect with. So I think in that regard, it's a great marketplace and community. At any point, I could have access to whatever type of creative or niche entrepreneur I'm looking for. I can literally just put a call out and I'll get 100 people being like, I can do that, which is really amazing. I think that that's like the best tool to have, period. It's like how I find anyone ever that I want to hire. But me personally, I think sometimes I get paralyzed to feel like I have to post. Also with editing, anyone who edits photos and videos constantly knows that you just like stare at your content for such a long time. You have to make revisions, and like, you know, by the time that you're done editing the photos and then you deliver them to the client, you're so sick of looking at the pictures. Me personally, I get into this like cycle where I'm like, none of these photos are good. They all suck because I've just looked at them so much. So then I get paralyzed and I don't post any of them on the internet because I'm like, I hate them all. I wish that I didn't have that narrative, but it's just the way that it is. So sometimes I go through spurts of energy where I like plan it all out and I'm able to post 3 posts in a week, you know, and that's like the most I'll do for 3 months. And then I'll go back on there and post. I post on my stories every day because it's fun. I don't have to like curate that. But when it comes to like what goes on my feed, I feel like trapped a little bit in having to curate the best version of my work and the best version of myself to give to people, because I do get a lot of work when people are looking to hire me, whether I'm modeling or shooting for them. They go to my Instagram and look to see how good it is. So yeah, I think my sentiment for the app, Instagram specifically, a lot of people in my position probably share it. I think a lot of people get crippled by it, but at the same time, it's this like remarkable tool that is just in our pocket whenever we want it, which is pretty insane.
Yeah, it's like the most valuable resource for you. It's kind of like,
yeah,
I you know, people, when I'm talking to business owners, I'm usually talking to them about doing marketing for them, like running ad campaigns on YouTube or Facebook or something. And they are often, a really common thing I deal with is people say, yeah, we're focusing on this new random thing. Like we're just like, companies that don't get any clients from social media will be like, we're investing in our Instagram page. And I always am confused. I always have to bring it up. Like, why are you investing in your Instagram page? You don't even people wouldn't even go to Instagram to find you. You're a local like pet, you're like a pest control company or something. It's like people don't even go to Instagram to find that. So
yeah, it's not a consumable product.
Yeah. So it makes sense, you know, like why, if you get your everything done in Instagram, you don't really need to invest in your new website every year or something like that. Like focus on where things matter.
Every year on the top of my to-do list, it says update your website, get a new website made. And every year the year passes and I'm like, didn't do that one. So I think it's just like the idea of going through all of my hard drives to find my best photos to put on the internet. It's like a maximalized version of Instagram, which cripples me. So then I'm like, seems like something I'll do on a rainy day when I have more time. And that rainy day with more time never comes. So
it just never happens. Yeah. Maybe like have an intern or someone, you know?
Yeah.
Leverage.
I need a personal assistant.
Yeah. Leverage someone else's time. That would help.
Yeah.
So for, you know, coming from Whistler, for me personally, I found the boarding community, I guess my experience with the boarding community is a little different than yours in the sense that you started boarding when I was actually starting to board less. Okay. Maybe not at that age, but I grew up right beside a ski hill, you know, in London, nice. Ontario. You know, like we were talking about when I first met you, same city as Dom. And
oh yeah. Wow, we talked about so much that night.
Yeah. And so anyways, yeah, we mostly talked about like London stuff, I think. But
okay.
London is it's not a ski town, but it is fortunate to have a ski hill inside the city that anyone can take a city bus to, and the pass only costs a few $100s. So it's a weird city in that sense. I grew up right beside that ski hill. So I like grew up just walking over there and boarding every day in the whole winter, and like boarding behind hockey arenas, like just obsessed for my whole like childhood. That was kind of my life. And then competing and filming and stuff a bit. And you just meet so many people who are not willing to live a conventional life. Mm-hmm. And to me, that has been such a, I don't know, like debatably, like maybe one of the best things in my life, like just alternative perspectives about everything all the time. Like people who are not following the norm of many things. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those guys who I was really close buddies with growing up, they're the ones who became weird entrepreneurs of all kind, and cinematographers and photographers, a lot of them. And so I have found being around the boarding community so inspiring in that sense, that people are just all doing weird things. I think even out here, like even some of the guys who I've met out here, like even Brody. I didn't really know Brody in Ontario, but he
was a snowboard boy. That he was before my era.
Okay.
But
yeah. And so he, you know, those guys, I don't know, there's always this thing where those guys going to end up doing unique things. They just, a lot of them do. Do you think that has played into how, because you're entrenched in that world?
Kind of. I'm in it, but I'm also on the periphery. I'm not a professional snowboarder. And I don't have a sled. So I often my like interaction with snowboarding is through commercial photography. Like a brand will hire me to shoot their entire outerwear and like mid layer for the winter season, but I'm not hiring professional snowboarders. I'm hiring athletes who can model, because that's not the same thing. So I'm not out in the like backcountry shooting like magazine covers. My like interaction with snowboarding is not at that regard. I agree that a lot of them, I think it's 50-50. I think in Whistler, a lot of them are doing the same things that they were doing 10 years ago, which isn't necessarily the most inspiring for me. But then I don't know if you know who Ian Azaria is, but before I moved to Whistler, I had a season at Seymour and we worked in the rental shop together, and he is like the coolest fucking guy ever. He's like the most incredible photographer probably that I've ever met. And he like converted his truck into like this wooden sauna camper van, and like he's really dope. And he has this like, he does tintype portraits, which you've probably seen on the internet. And anyways, someone like that who's super weird and has their hands on like all these little, they're just always tinkering with things. I think that I've come across those people, but I think in Whistler, I think that it's pretty bland. Like I wouldn't say that my experience with the snowboard culture there has been the best. I think, I mean, especially being a woman, especially being a woman who's not white, I think that as long as I'm not in the space to take opportunities away from other women who are professional snowboarders, then I'm safe. And because I'm not trying to be a pro snowboarder, the women go easy on me. But I think if I wanted more out of a snowboard career, it would be a very different story. And I think that it's a pretty like homogenous monoculture in Whistler. I think that all the same people hang out with the same people. They all look the same. They all snowboard the same, and they all talk about the same things. So I don't know that I necessarily I don't know that Ontario snowboarders are the same as Whistler snowboarders. I think the Whistler snowboarders, when I entered Whistler, are still there doing the exact same thing, talking about the same things, interviewing the same people, talking about, and every year they come out with a snowboard movie, which is slightly different than the snowboard movie they came out with a year before that. But like Brody was a snowboarder. Now he lives in Tofino, hugely successful chartering company. Was in a knife commercial that was like the most beautiful cinematic commercial I've ever seen of Tofino. So like that's cool, you know? layers, tons of different things going on. If you asked him a question about marine life in the harbor, he would have like 700 fun facts about it, and he literally won't stop talking about it. And you're like, okay, I get it. Like, I don't need to know more about this gull type, because apparently there are over 50 flavors of seagulls and none of them are called seagulls. So anyways, I think in terms of like your vein of all the people of your era that you grew up with probably went on to do lots of cool, weird things. But because I entered snowboarding so late, I didn't grow up in the culture. I'm not super, again, like you said, entrenched in it. I'm on the periphery because it's not my entire reason for being. And because of that, it's kind of like being half Japanese. When I go to Japan, I look like I'm white, but when I'm here, I look like I'm Asian. So being half is like, I'm in this like in between world where I'm not like fully accepted as one or the other. And that's kind of like being a photographer in Whistler. If I don't give everything to snowboarding and that's not my entire existence for being, then I'm not like in the culture. I'm just on the outside of it. And like, I can hang, everyone's nice, but it's not the thing that like, I'm not a pillar of the community in that regard, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. That's a really interesting thought, because I think hearing you say it, I agree that like what inspires me is boarders who have more boarders of all kinds who have other interests and are excited about other things. Like there's so much nuance in the world. And like, I used to be a competitive soccer player growing up and an obsessive like boarder. And it was just a weird combination. Like all my boarder buddies just didn't get it. And, you know, like we're all just making fun of each other for whatever we can. And I was dishing it out just as much as I got it. But, you know, like they're chirping me for being like a soccer player and stuff. And, you know, so I get it. Sometimes there's not room for nuance in those kind of communities. But Whistler maybe in particular is like such a core border community that it's a little different. That kind of is, I guess, what the border community there is.
I also think like, you know, snowboarding can be compared to like the corporation of Instagram. If Instagram got taken away and your entire purpose was to sell products and be an influencer on the internet, then if the internet got taken away, then what is your purpose beyond that, you know? If snowboarding got taken away because of global warming, then what are you contributing to your community and the people around you? Same goes for Instagram or TikTok, you know, like all of these things. If you don't have a like basis for how you contribute to your community or people around you, or you're not investing in things beyond this like one thing, then I don't know. I'm not trying to say that like people shouldn't invest everything into this one thing, but just for me personally, I like people with lots of layers who tinker with like funny little things. And those people are so fun to have a conversation with because they just have experienced so much and how they see things is so unique. So I'm more for like the little weirdo that does a bunch of things, but also snowboards really well rather than like just a snowboarder.
Yeah. No, sweet. Maybe since we're doing this podcast anyways, so how this all started for me, I was at university in my last year of university. I used to go tree plant up north. I think Dom might have even done it one year. Maybe I'm imagining.
Dom? Wait, do you know Sierra and Eric? Sierra tree plants quite a bit. Eric Gelling?
I don't. No, I don't. Yeah. I don't know.
I guess they weren't at the barbecue. Okay. Dom, I don't think that Dom ever tree planted. That would be insane to me if she did.
Okay, never mind then. A bunch of our other friends from London did.
She's way too like gentle of a creature to tree plant. There's no way. I can't even imagine.
Okay, fair enough.
She's way too cute.
Too nice and soft in a good way. She's like such
the best one. She's so gentle. She inspires me so much.
Dom, honestly, like I want to interview her because I think she's doing like on this topic of stuff.
Yeah.
Her brand, firstly, she has really good taste.
She does, of course.
And that is priceless. But like the most like her brand has so much feeling. There's such a feel to it. And she's done that. It's almost like you can try and create good design and just and hope that that resonates with people, or you can just kind of go out and like create a community that decides the entire feel of the brand.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot more work, but
I don't even think she thought that that was like her end goal. She kind of was just like, oh, I want to go outside and other girls do too. So I'm just going to do it.
Honestly, like I meet tons of people wearing her shit, and I'm like, oh, do you know Dom? And they're like, no.
Yeah, like just bought this at the factory. And it's like, wow, crazy. Like you just bought that and you don't even know Dom? Do you even know what you're wearing? It's like royalty.
Yeah, but that's also like it's like, wow, that's like a real thing. It's not just her creation. It's like become this thing that's a lot bigger than that.
It's crazy.
So anyways, that's cool. I was talking to her about that a bunch when I was in Tofino that time. But I forget where I was even going with this.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. You used to tree plant?
Okay, yeah. So I used to tree plant like as much as I could all summer, save up a bunch of money, pay for my tuition. And then I would like set some to the side because I was like, as soon as I'm done school at the end of December, I'm moving to Whistler and finally just getting back to just only caring about snowboarding. Sick. And I tore my ACL and my meniscus like that month.
No.
And it was like a full-on identity crisis because I was that person who didn't care about. There wasn't a single thing I cared about other than snowboarding. And it like honestly sent me into like a crisis because it was like a year and a half before I could even board, and it's just never been the same since. Hopefully I can get some stem cells shot into my knee sometime and fix it, but we'll see. But yeah, it's like, so I think that's one thing that can happen is you can just become a one-track mind and not really realize how much awesome stuff is out there. Like I was just forced to go on surf trips and learn how to surf and travel. And I went backpacked and I was like, wow, the world is so filled with weird, cool people of all kinds that aren't necessarily from my community that I'm comfortable in.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that, people who snowboard, they also get to meet lots of weird people and travel a ton too, like that's super cool. But I don't know. I think as you get older, you realize who is like, you can, for me personally anyways, because I also recently learned about my human design, and I think I'm getting better at like picking people out to be like, oh yeah, like we vibe, like we're going to see things in like lots of different ways, which I think is cool. So I'm not like robbing specifically. I feel like I just shat on snowboarders in Whistler. I didn't. I love them all. But it's just a different way of thinking and something that I didn't grow up with. It's not something I'm well versed in. So, like part of that could just be also a projection of like my own awareness to be like, this isn't like maybe the one that fits for me, but I still respect it and understand the culture. It's just different.
Yeah. And I get that. I think what I did is I was mentioning how it has been a big source of inspiration for me. And the truth is like I lived in Whistler for like 3 months. Like other than that, I've just come and gone from there and spent a lot of time there. I was there yesterday, but
nice. How was the summer? Probably so sick.
It was pretty good. There were some good pockets. Yeah, there was definitely some really good pockets.
Did you go up on Boxing Day? Boxing Day was like the sickest day ever.
Oh, I didn't. No.
Damn it.
Yeah, yesterday was my first day. I had to go back to Ontario for like a couple weeks. To family, little work and family stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, what was I even saying? So Whistler, when I say that, I'm not even really talking about Whistler realistically. But so maybe this is a more interesting one. I like creative work. I almost feel like if I didn't just kind of like somehow land in having a marketing agency, that I would just be a creative of some other kind. I used to, like, that whole thing started from designing websites and writing articles. And I feel like that's really almost what I resonate with more. So I'm kind of curious, as a creative person.
You're young yet, you can do that too.
Yeah. I have plans on not doing what I'm doing forever. I have plans on being a dynamic person and just figuring it out. But so what is creatively, where do you find your inspiration? Or do you just kind of feel it out and you just like pick up on things, because I feel like there's things that inspire me, and some of it is following or checking out really intriguing, like tasteful people or tasteful brands on social media, and just seeing what's going on, and just catching up with interesting people who I know in the city and stuff is like, it's a really good source of inspiration for me. So I think
if I'm burning out, because I've been working too much, I usually go surfing or I do something outside. I leave my phone somewhere. I go camping, I go hiking. Usually nature always brings things back to my general center, I would say. If I'm feeling like I'm in a bit of a creative dump, I find my cat drools when he's happy, and he's literally just leaving a puddle of drool on the table. It's so nasty. Sorry, that's what I was looking at. I digress. But yeah, if I have time and I'm feeling like a little bit creatively unmotivated, or I'm finding that like my photos are becoming a little bit like similar across the board, I find a bunch of small businesses on the internet, on the corners of the internet, and I message them and I'm like, hey, can you send me some of your product? And I want to do a creative spec shoot for you. I get my friends together, and then we usually go out in nature and do a photo shoot that's like usually completely different to what I would have to do in a commercial shoot. I just do it for fun. And then that usually kickstarts. It's nice. Usually I find brands that aren't normally in my realm of commercial shoots, and then and someone that probably can't afford to hire a commercial photographer with the rates that I charge and with talent and everything. And I just convince my buddies to come and hang. And usually they get the product out of it, and then I send the photos over, and they're usually super fired up. And then sometimes those turn into return clients, which is awesome. But other times it's mostly just to be like, oh yeah, like I can do things that aren't in the same cookie cutter all the time. So nature and donating my time are the two things probably. Yeah.
Sweet. Mm-hmm. What do you, this might be broad, and for somebody who's a feeler, it might not even be. Is feeler a human design term? I feel like that's where I've heard it. Maybe.
No, but I am a reflector. So whatever you're feeling, I'm feeling it too.
Okay. I'm sick today, so hopefully you're not feeling like low energy vibes.
It's because you were in Ontario. Literally every person that is coming home from Eastern Canada right now that I've texted has been like, God, I'm so burnt out. Like I have a cold sore. I have the flu. Like I'm just so tired. Like everyone is literally coming back in like a corpse box. So that something's going on out there, you guys.
It's the dry Ontario winter. It gets you.
Yeah.
It honestly gets
it's crazy.
You. So what, like you do tons of cool stuff. You're obviously doing lots of cool trips and stuff, going to Japan. And are you going to Japan with your family or with your boyfriend, or?
Well, my grandpa died 2 weeks ago, and he was a very important man in our family. And, it's my mom's dad. So she went to Japan a couple of days ago, and then, the New Year's is a really big deal in Japan. So they don't really celebrate Christmas. New Year's is like the time that they take off and spend with your family and loved ones. So my mom wanted to be home for that. And then I'll go meet her on the 1st. So the first week I'm going to spend with my family, just reconnecting and sort of, honoring my grandparents, or my grandpa. My grandma's still alive. So I'll hopefully get to see her, and then it'll just be nice to spend time with my family because we don't often get to all hang out together. So that is the first week. And then the following 3 weeks are just going to be snowboarding. We sort of have friends in all different parts, and my camera bag sponsor, Shimoda, I don't know if you know the bags, but anyways, the owner of that company lives in Hakuba. So hopefully see some time with him, meet with a real estate agent, and then just poke around in a couple different towns and see where I want to buy a place. That's basically it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
What are your, I'm trying to think of like a good kind of closing notes here. What are your, I don't know. I guess sometimes I ask people like what inspires them, but I kind of already asked you that. What do you, I don't know. What are you working on these days? Maybe I'll ask that, you're obviously doing lots of cool stuff and always working on different projects, and maybe you have a vision for the future of what you're hoping to create for yourself. Do you have anything along the lines of any of those that are interesting or worth sharing?
Yeah, I'll go on another tangent. No problem. Okay, so a couple things I'm excited for. Like I said, 2024 was not, the craziest year. It was a great year, but it was also hard. It was a hard year for a lot of my peers and a lot of the people around me. I think that everyone felt the shifts of the economy. Also, a lot of people passed away. I think it was a hard year for lots of families, and maybe that's my human design, like when my community is feeling the lows of life, then I feel them too. So it probably is just an organic and natural way of living right now. But I think 2025 is going to be a great year. So many of my favorite people turned 30, which is so exciting because when I turned 30, it was like the best year of my whole goddamn life. So it's a good year to be born in 1995. Dom is also one of those people. She'll be turning 30 next year. So yeah, I have a lot of travel plans. A couple of my like ones and twos are seeing through some really great objectives for their future and their career, and I get to be a part of them to photograph, which is really awesome. I have some great work and great clients lined up. I'm booked until spring, which is incredible. That never happens. So I'm super stoked about that. Hoping to snowboard and surf a ton in Japan, which is going to be great. And what else? What else am I supposed to talk about?
That all sounds like good stuff.
Yeah, I kind of like that, but that's not that cute though. Like leaving it on just talking about how great my life is, like that's kind of ick, isn't it? A piece of advice, maybe.
Sure. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. I did a photography workshop a couple months ago. Actually, a great turnout. It was super cute. We just like did a PowerPoint and like did a workshop on how to shoot photos for clients. It was super cute. But I think my biggest feedback was I think anyone who wants to get into photography or even in this field in general is to be patient and to be super generous with your time and your energy and have a really open mind for working with people. You never know who's going to say your name in a room full of people, which is where 90% of my clientele comes from. Is if one person had a great experience with you, then they'll quit their company and then go work at a different company and then bring you onto their creative team. So I think if you're kind and compassionate, most of the time it works out for the better. Even if you can't, it's not like energy that you can see flowing around all the time.
That was great. Cool.
The end.
We'll end it right there.
Okay, cool.
I'm just going to let it run and just kind of like cut it later. But
okay.
That was good. Sweet.
Great.
I would have one topic now. I would have it's always interesting chatting with people who are from is your dad an immigrant too, or just your mom?
Just my mom. Yeah, my dad is Canadian.
Okay.
He's just a regular old white guy.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
What made your mom come here from Japan? I mean, that's just interesting because
she's so dope. I'm obsessed with her. It's funny, when I was a teenager, I was like, you're the worst. I don't ever want to be anything like you. And now that I'm an adult, I'm literally a carbon copy of my mom, which is so funny, which is amazing because she's like the coolest person in the world. But she, in Japan, they still do arranged marriages. So if you come from an upper class family, they expect the daughters to be married off into similar class rank. So because my grandpa's a doctor, he opened his own hospital. They had expected, and then he had 3 daughters, so all of them would be married off into similar class ranks. So my mom had been expected to be married to a doctor. They had found a suitable match for her. You know, she vibed with him. It was cute. But she was working as a translator in the courts in Japan, and she wanted to move to Canada for a year to pursue linguistics. And she just wanted to live in Vancouver because she was like, I need to hang out with English speaking people so I can like pick up on all the slang, you know? So my grandpa was like, fine, I'll let you move to Canada for a year and you can go pursue English. So she actually went to school for linguistics as well. And then she met my dad, and then she went home and she was like, I met a carpenter and I'm going to marry him. And my grandma cried for 2 weeks straight. And then they ended up loving him. And then, yeah, she married my dad and then had my brother and I. And now she's like super badass. She went and got her PhD in computing science. And she worked for a lot of,
computing science.
Yeah, it was actually really funny because she's like always been I think she had really bad postpartum when she had me, and my dad bought her this like book from the thrift store that was like computing science for dummies or something. And he was like, I think you'll like this. And similarly, he bought me a camera when I was in grade 12, and he was like, I think you'll do good things with this. So maybe, I think he just like had a bit of a knack for understanding how people worked. And so, yeah, my mom ended up being obsessed with computing science, and she got her major when we were masters, when we were little. Like I remember she used to drop us off at like the campus daycare. And yeah, then she got her PhD probably when I was like 18 or 19. And then now she's like a badass. She was the VP for Pacific Blue Cross. Then she was the president at Life Labs. And then where did she go after that? I don't know. She's had like a crazy non-linear career. She's somewhere else now. I couldn't even tell you what she does. It's kind of like what she thinks I do. She's like, my daughter's a photographer. That's all I can tell you. So
that's wild.
My mom is a computer lady. It's crazy.
Computing science. That's like, I just always picture like young nerds being in that job, not like
No, she's like a genius. It was funny because like when we were growing up, you know, they allowed my brother a computer in his room. I think he was like 12 or something, 12 or 13 maybe. And they were like, this is only for, because we also grew up where my dad was like super anti-computer. So we had 3 sets of encyclopedias, and anytime we needed to like look up a resource for something, he would make us look through all the volumes of encyclopedias we had before we were allowed to look it up on the internet. Because the internet was like this crazy concept in the 90s. And so, or no, early 2000s, I guess. But anyways, my brother got a computer in his room, and they were like, if you use this for anything that isn't research-based, it's coming out of your room. And he was like, of course, but he's a prepubescent boy. Like, obviously he's going to look at porn on the computer. So, you know, he thought he was super smart, like deleting the search history. Like, there's no way they're going to catch on to me. Like, literally 30 seconds, my mom she like digs into the depths of the computer, and she's like, yeah, he definitely was looking at things he's not supposed to be looking at. So he lost his computer privileges within a week.
That's hilarious.
Oh, yeah, man. So she's a tech lady. It's great.
Nice. Good for her.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's always interesting. I guess Dom would have this too. Like, I don't even know. Like, I haven't spent that much time with Dom in a long time. And even when I did, it was just like at parties and stuff, to be honest with you. But
yeah, have her on your podcast. She actually did a, I don't know if you've heard it, but she did a podcast with Giddy Up. You can look it up. It's really good.
Oh, cool. Giddy Up.
Which will give you some insight into her life. She's got a crazy upbringing story as well, because her mom is immigrated from the Dominican. So.
Oh, really? Okay. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, that stuff always interests me because like I don't really look it, but like I'm like my entire family is immigrants. They're all like refugee immigrants basically. So that kind of stuff is always interesting to hear. I feel like there's a lot of psychological stuff that has kind of come with maybe some of the shit my family went through before coming here, but
that's why we go to therapy.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You know, actually, there's someone that you should probably talk to. She's a Vancouver girl. She's young. She's like 26, but she started she's like a chef and a caterer. And she started this thing called Thumb supper club or Thummin's dinner club, I think. I'll send you her Instagram, but her family is like a family of refugees from Syria, and they survived like some crazy shit, and then she got cancer and survived cancer, went through like chemotherapy. She's so young and she's cancer free now, and then started this like supper club, and she's like a phenomenal cook. Her cooking is insane. And she's pretty cool. So that might be someone also interesting to talk to.
Yeah, no, that sounds super interesting. I almost think she's been to my WeWork location and just like hosted. They always have guests of like little pop-up shops.
She's new. She like literally just started. Greta and I hosted a retreat in Squamish last October, and we had her come and cook for the retreat. And that was the first time she's ever cooked for the public. And that October we were like, okay, like time for you to start cooking and charging money for this. So this summer was like really when she started and it took off. So it's really only been since like June of this year.
Oh, cool. Sweet. Yeah. So yeah, kind of a new thing. She definitely isn't the one I'm thinking of then.
No, she's green.
Yeah. Cool. By the way, buying a place in Japan, I feel like I saw like a viral video, like,
oh yeah, it's like trending on the internet. You can buy a 5-bedroom home for $40,000. It's fucked.
What? Oh, is that because it's the aging population?
Yeah, it's the aging population, and like it's interesting because it's my family sort of going through this right now because my grandparents have like a fucking mansion, but it would cost them more to tear. It would cost them $600,000 to tear the structure down and sell it for the land. So nobody wants to buy it. So that's like why there's so many of these. They're called IKEAs, which are abandoned homes. So it's like all the younger population doesn't want to deal with their like inheritance because it costs too much to, and then you have to pay a crazy inheritance tax in order to take on the asset. So tons of Japanese families don't want to deal with like their grandparents' houses and their parents' houses. So they're just like sitting empty, and then they get sold for nothing basically.
That's insane.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
Like, so are you gonna like, is the plan like, would you Airbnb it out, or it's so cheap that you'll just go and just have it when you want?
I mean, I think I probably will. Like, honestly, I love going to Japan with friends. It's like something I just love it. It's like so fun to go to Japan with friends. And I've been going for the last like 5 or 6 years every winter, and new friends come with me every time. It's so fun. So I think I would ideally like to have, I don't think I'm going to have it in snow because it's too hard to maintain in the winter. I think, and like when I'm 80, I want to have a vacation home near surf because I can still surf when I'm 80, but I probably can't snowboard when I'm 80. So I'm just thinking like super long term. So I'm going to buy a spot that is like in a really idyllic surf town close to Tokyo.
Nice.
Yeah. So hopefully it'll just be, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so that's not like the surf island. Yakushi.
No, Okinawa is the surf island you're probably thinking of. Yeah. It's really good for diving too. No, it's way too far south. I think I would buy something that's like an hour away from Tokyo. And hopefully it's like people can just go and hang, you know. Maybe I'll Airbnb it, but I don't even know what that looks like to do. So that's like a 5 years from now problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Sweet. Well, I guess it's pretty much time. I'll let you go now so you have some time to chill before your session.
Thank you.
Sweet.
Cool. It was great chatting. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this.